I want to thank everybody for coming, all the candidates and everyone who came out to support them and learn more about their positions. I'd like to start out if everyone could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My name is Sarah Simmons, and I'm with the Ironton Tribune. And then down here in front, we have Sarah Diamond Burraway with Ohio University, who will be our timekeeper. We'll start out by giving each candidate 2 minutes to introduce themselves. And we'll start with you, Katrina.
Can you guys hear me without me being right? Okay. How about now? Is that good? Okay, Katrina Keith, I'm running for mayor for the city of Ironton. I am the current mayor, being elected in 2015. Upon coming into office in 2015, I walked into a deficit general fund budget. Major equipment had been sold off. Aged remaining equipment in all departments. Limited staffing. Only 25% of the city of Ironton residents paying income taxes. EPA violations in both the water plant and wastewater plant, discolored water affecting the entire city, flooding in the north end of Ironton due to the EPA combined sewer overflow project, sewage overflows into basements, 2 flood declarations in 2018 and 2019. No paving plan, no economic development plan, duplicate services at the taxpayer's expense, dilapidated structures throughout the community, neglected property, unpaid income taxes, unpaid utility bills, and issues with internal operations. In 4 years, Ironton has seen over 15 new businesses, the beginning of a new spec building at the old Ironton Steel property, updated storefronts in the downtown business district, a new bicycle and walking path along the riverfront, and upcoming $16 million hotel project. We've received a grant to rehabilitate the Brumberg building. We have a grant for the ODOT garage. We have a grant for the basketball and tennis courts. We've received funding to repair South 3rd Street in the industrial district going towards Coal Grove. We've received funding for paving through the Interstate Planning Commission.
Time. Just go right on down the line. So 2 minutes for each of you.
My name is Robin Himmerlin, and I am running for Coal Grove Village Council. I have lived in Coal Grove for around 12 years, 2 different times, 5 years and then 7 years. And this is a huge transition year for Coal Grove. We're electing a new mayor and 2 new council members, and we have a lot of situations that we're dealing with right now, including our water. And I want to be a part of making Coal Grove the best place that it can be. And I believe that I can be a new voice on the council. I'm new to politics and I'm new to this, and I want to work for the people and listen to the people and be a voice for the community.
My name is Jim Jordan, and I've been on council this past time for about 1.5 years. I was appointed twice to fill the vacancy of Dave Frazier when he passed away, and then appointed again when Kevin Waldo was elected municipal court judge to fill his unexpired term. I'm a former director of finance for the city. I'm a former mayor of the city. I've been on council 3 or 4 times. I've also been treasurer of Rock Hill Local School District. I've been treasurer of Dawson Bryant School District. I was director of personnel for Lawrence County Medical Center, and I'm currently an accountant for the Dawson Bryant School District. Most of what I bring to the table is finances. Worked with that most of my life. I've developed a very good relationship with the current finance director, John Elam. So, hopefully I'm a second set of eyes for John because the city of Ironton's finances are so delicate. Upon getting back on council this past time, I tried to jump in and look at the finances. And one of the things I saw right off the bat, having spent so much time at the city, was that we were needing some help with the flood control. The flood pump stations had become severely dilapidated. We have an obligation with the Corps of Engineering to keep those in a certain operational order. And so if you want to blame somebody for the flood fee, blame me, because I could see right away that there was a multi-million-dollar need to try to resurrect those. And the $5 a month that we put on brings in $250,000 a year will accommodate that. And I've been flagged with the 32nd. And I'll just say very quickly, what I'm trying to focus on right now is to continually impress on LADC, which is our Economic Development Corporation,
Okay.
to help
My
us
name-
with
Mr.
the
Torres,
economic
thumbs up,
development. Sorry.
That's all right. My name's Chris Haney. I've been an Ironton resident my whole life, graduated from Ironton High School, graduated from this university right here with a degree in education, 439 Science and Social Studies. I've went on to further be certified as an intervention specialist. My wife and 3 kids live on Batham Lane in Ironton in the Green Valley District. The reason why I'm running is because I went to city council meetings as a concerned citizen. I was very outspoken at some of the meetings. And every time I asked a question, I felt like I got the same answer from the same people, and so on and so on. So I went home after one of the meetings very discouraged. I sat down and asked my wife if we could have a talk, and I said, Amanda, I said, I'm basically down to 2 options. Either we are leaving town, we're putting our house up for sale, and we're leaving town, or I'm going to stand up and make a run at an office to where I can make a difference. I'm not one to run from a challenge, so I wasn't going to pick up and move my kids from their neighborhood friends. I decided that I was going to run, and I was going to put everything I had into it, and hopefully the citizens of Ironton will see how hard I've been working on my campaign, and just give me a chance to implement some of the ideas that I brought to city council that I thought fell upon deaf ears, and just give me a chance to make some positive changes, give new life, give young blood a chance to make some decisions for the future of Ironton. And I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and being here, and I appreciate your guys' support for your community, and it shows a lot for you being here.
Thank you, Christopher. My name's Andy Holmes. I'm running for mayor of Coal Grove. I've served on the council for the last 3 years. I'm proud of the work that we've accomplished there. I want to continue that momentum from the mayor's seat, oversee the project for the $4 million grant for the water distribution system that we recently rewarded. I've lived in Coal Grove for 40 years. I'm raising 2 boys sitting here in the front row. They're 13 and 12. That's a big part of my motivation for what I want to do. But I just have a desire to serve the community and to make it a better place. These boys, I want to stick around home, and I've got another 20 or so years to pay on my house, so we're not going anywhere. And I want them to be able to live in the community and have just as much opportunity here in Coal Grove as they would have anywhere else across the country. So, we want to maintain the things that we've got going on with the grants. We've obtained more grants in the last 3 years than we've gotten in the 30 years prior. And a lot of that stuff is just coming to fruition. So the projects will get started early in 2020, and I feel like that I can oversee those projects as well as anybody. We'll be putting all new infrastructure, and there'll be an obligation to put the streets and sidewalks back in the same shape, if not better, than what they were when they were tore up. So it's going to be a lot on the next mayor to kind of oversee and keep the village running. But more than anything, it's just a matter of progression and a matter of a place where We got to keep things going in the right direction. So, with that, I'll turn it over. Thank you.
My name's Mike Pierce. I grew up on the north end of town on 4th Street, living between the new school and the Staytan Pool, if you're familiar with that part of town. What I think this evening is an opportunity for me, well, for you to get to know me. So I grew up in Ironton, as I said. I'm a 1975 graduate of Ironton High School. Married Mickey Hoy from Russell, Kentucky. You might know her. She's the lady that started the Cato store up on the hill, managed it for 4 years. I've been a band director. You might know me as the band director from Sims Valley. I was there 21 years, finished my career at Portsmouth West. Along the way, of course, I got a bachelor's degree. I've got 2 master's degrees. The second one in educational administrative leadership here at Ohio University. I am a Christian. I'm a true believer. And a little bit of background there. I've lived here. I know how Ironton was in the 70s, 80s, and so forth. Moved away, lived in 3 states, taught in 4 school districts. Came back here in 2013. And so now I see what Ironton's done, what they're doing now, and what they're not doing. I also see what other towns our size are doing. And I want to give you the chance to hopefully elect me so that I can move us forward into sort of a different culture, a different way of thinking for our town. We're not going to be Ironton of 1980. We have to have a different vision for Ironton, and I think I can do that for you.
My name is Jacob Hawk. I want to be your Ironton City Councilman. I was born and raised here. I love Ironton because of its uniqueness. It's a place rich with history and a place where everyone considers each other a neighbor. I graduated from Ironton High School in 2010, received my bachelor's degree from Ohio University in 2013. After college, I spent some time working with the Lawrence County Auditor as well as the Board of Elections. Like many young people, opportunity called me outside of Ironton, but when I returned, I brought back experiences and a perspective that I'd like to see implemented in our city government. There are many friends of mine who've left town. I was lucky because when I came back, I found a good job and a stable home. I'm invested in Ironton because I want to see it thrive. I'm always advocating for how great of a city this is. My fiance, who I convinced to move here, can attest to that. With that being said, there are a lot of areas in which I think we can improve upon. I've been going door to door, talking to a lot of people who desire change. I want to be a voice for the people of Ironton. I'm not in this to further my own agenda or to profit off the citizens. I'm here because I want to see my city grow and flourish. That's who I am, and that's why I'm running for Ironton City Council. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam Cramblett. I want to be your next Ironton mayor. I grew up here in Ironton, lived here my whole life, graduated from Ironton, went on to school up in Athens to get my degree. That's where I first got my passion for community involvement. I went on to graduate with a bachelor's degree in political science there, and from there on have been working and serving communities all over the country. Since then, serving as a director of community engagement and policy strategy, I decided I wanted to run for mayor this past winter whenever I attended a few of those council meetings that Chris was talking about and the public forum. And I kept hearing the only solution to economic development was taxes or fees on citizens. And I just felt like there's got to be something else. Well, the only thing else being talked about was chopping the fire department by a few jobs. So I felt obligated to stop traveling for work and, come bring some change to my own community. And that's why I'm running for mayor. Oh, I'll share.
I'd like to thank the Tribune and all the candidates and the general public here. My name's Chuck O'Leary. I'm married to my wife for 34 years, and I have to get that right. I have a son that's 32, Joe. I've been on council for 12 years. This will be my 12th year, 11 and 10 months. I'm a graduate of Ohio University, undergraduate, business administration, master's degree in public administration. I'm just thrilled at the candidates that's running. I don't think we can lose either way. And I'd just like to say, if I'm not the candidate chosen, I'll always be available for the mayor and this council, whoever it be, because I think we've turned the corner. I'm a big supporter of the income tax, and I think that's an investment in the future. And as been spoken, I think we have to really develop our infrastructure, our sewer, and our water, and pave our streets to prepare ourselves. That's what LEDC, our economic development people, CAO, the County Port Authority, they say we must have this in place to encourage business. And I'd like to shout out to Amanda and Mrs. Clary for what they've, it's tremendous what they've brought to the city. Thanks.
At this point, we'd like to invite Jeff Floyd to come and talk for 2 minutes. He's running for an open position for the governing board of the Lawrence County Educational Service Center Board.
I appreciate you including me. I just want to say that my name is Jeff Floyd, and I want to continue being that board member for the Lawrence County Educational Service Center because I feel like I'm dedicated to improving the Lawrence County schools. It was really good to hear tonight. Almost everybody spoke either about education or was involved in education, and to me, that's what makes the county it is because of the education system we have. My public service began when I ran for the Sins Valley School Board, where my two daughters, Ashley and Leslie, attended. And I think Mr. Pierce was working there at that time. And I just, my two daughters are upset at me right now because I didn't tell them I was coming tonight, because they've been very supportive. They've showed up for parades and dinners and lunches. Anytime that they knew something was going on, they attended. So I just want to give them a shout out, even though I didn't invite them. During my time on the board, I learned a lot about working with other board members, about the community, working with the staff. And I'm currently in my 4th year with the ESC, so I think I can take those two experiences from both of those positions and continue to work hard to provide opportunities to the schools in the county. It's just real quick. Many people wonder exactly what is the ESC. I hear that a lot as I'm out campaigning, and they provide some wonderful services. And we do have a Facebook page and we do have a website, so we've tried to become more and more transparent to the community. And anybody that would like to know more about the ESC, I'll be around afterwards and we'll be glad to answer that. If elected, I plan to continue to offer support to the districts. Again, as a graduate from a Lawrence County school and 4 grandchildren who are beginning school in Lawrence County, I expect to stay around, and I expect to work harder, and I think I'll be even more passionate. So I'd appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Chris Collier, who is also running for an open position for the ESC, wanted to apologize for his absence at this evening's event as he's out of town for work at a mandatory training. And now we'll start with our first question, and we'll start with Robin Heberlin, and then we'll go down the line and end with Katrina Keith. So, if elected or re-elected as mayor or to a council seat, what would your priorities be?
First priority in Coal Grove right now, I believe, and most people will agree, or the people I've spoken with believe, that our water distribution. And currently the council and the mayor have worked and are working on making sure that that's accomplished. They have secured an EPA grant with principal forgiveness and that should start in May of 2020. Our water is a serious issue right now, and most everyone knows that. So they're working hard on that. I want to be a part of making sure that's accomplished and making sure that the people are satisfied with the way it's done, and it's done timely and in order. And we also have, like most every other place, we have issues in Coal Grove with a drug problem, and I believe our police department have needs that they have to have met to be able to take care of our community. We need to take care of them so they can take care of us. And that's a priority for me, is to make sure that they have the training that they need, the equipment that they need, so they can be there for us. And our fire department, we want to make sure they're taken care of, and I want to make the community important. I want them to become involved. I want them to be a big part of everything that goes on. It seems when I've gone to just a few council meetings, there's very few people in the community that are there or have any comment, but then when you're outside of the council meeting, you hear a lot of comments from people. I want them to feel like they can be involved. I want them to feel like they can be at the meetings. They can come to anyone they want to discuss things, and they can feel confident in knowing that the council members are going to, one, listen, and two, act on what they're saying.
The top priority, and I've been trying to work on this ever since I've gotten back on council, is to find out exactly what direction the citizens want to go. No matter what anybody tells you, there have been a lot of good minds over the years on city council to try to look at the same problems. We've had judges, we've had attorneys, we've had accountants, we've had dentists, we've had bankers, we've had business people. Everybody wasn't wrong. Everybody that has spent the time on council to try to analyze the city's problems they get it very quick. It's not rocket science, and that is there's not money to do what needs to be done if you want to grow. And that's a big decision. And I've always felt this way in my entire public life. It's up to the citizens. Then we do our plan. We did a survey that I spearheaded this past year, trying to find out from the citizens if you want to grow or if you would rather stay pat. There's nothing wrong with staying pat if that's what the majority of the citizens want to do, but we don't know. If you want to grow, no matter what anybody tells you tonight, it takes money. LEDC we've talked to for the last year, and it's continual, that if you want to grow, you've got to annex. You've got to provide property for people to have higher-end housing. You've got to get your streets back in shape. You cannot let streets go for 40 years and think you're going to attract any growth. You've got to work with the water plant, the sewer plant, and the list goes on and on. So priority number one, and that's the whole purpose of the income tax, not to impose anything on you. If we wanted to impose, we would have put a $30 fee on your municipal fee, and you wouldn't have had anything to do with it. The whole thing about the income tax on the ballot is to find out once and for all which direction the citizens want to go. I understand that there's a lot of people that can't pay more, and if the majority doesn't want it, I understand that fully, but we have to find out.
The biggest priority for me is to keep from further taxing and feeing the citizens of Ironton without reducing or eliminating services. I believe I've came with valid ideas, valid opportunities to council meetings. The biggest thing I think Ironton's problem is Ironton is extremely inefficient. Inefficient with funds, inefficient with labor forces, inefficient, just basically all inefficiency. My point is to bring Ironton to an efficient level. We need to ask more of our employees. We need to ask more of our supervisors. We need to ask more of our administration. We need to ask more of our council. I've went to council meetings and I've actually heard members say, economic development is not our job. Okay, if you're on city council and you are an elected official, you wear many hats, and economic development it may be one of the biggest. So I was shocked when I went to an actual council meeting and heard members of the administration and the council say that economic development is not our job. I believe it is our job. It is definitely our job. So if elected, I'm definitely going to find alternative ways to keep our services, to keep the taxes and fees down, and to basically make your taxpayer dollars work harder for the city. And basically, it's going to take a lot of teamwork. It's going to take teamwork with the city employees. It's going to take teamwork with council. It's going to take with administration, every step, even citizens. But it is possible to not raise the fees, not raise the taxes, and keep all services.
My priorities as I campaign for this mayor run and going door to door, it's obvious that the water distribution situation we have in Coal Grove is the community's #1 priority. And it has been since I took my seat at the council table. We worked hard. I'm confident that we have a solution for this problem. It is going to take a little bit of time in order to implement with the grant money that I mentioned earlier coming. So if I could, obviously with that being said, the #1 priority, let me focus on economic development, and maybe that's a #2 for me, but Robin kind of touched on some of the things for our water distribution. We have hundreds of acres of untapped riverfront property that sits undeveloped, and I think with the right networking and the right solicitation of this property, that something could be done there. If we could just take and network with McGinnis, they recently purchased other riverfront property instead of utilizing the property that we have in Coal Grove that's available that they currently own. I think if we were at the table with a company like McGinnis and made it more conducive for them to come into Coal Grove, then they possibly could have built the Waze dock that you see in South Point. That possibly could have come to South Point, but we didn't make the right moves at that time, and they decided to go to South Point. So a lot can be done on that front. And with that economic development, we have to have the infrastructure in place. We currently have a hard time providing fire suppression because of the water flow that we have. I was on a project where we cut into a 6-inch ductile iron line, and that ID of that line was about 2.5 inches. That keeps the proper flow for fire suppression for businesses to move in. It's extra expense. They have to install bulk tanks in order to provide their own fire suppression. So just by working on these infrastructure problems, it'll be in the best interest for economic development. Currently our gutter drains, our things along the street, our sidewalks are in disrepair. So we've got to make moves to find a way to invest in the infrastructure and bring business to Coal Grove.
Mr. Tordiff, Mr. Haney made good points when they spoke. What I see about this is that all of our problems are webbed together here in Ironton. We have financial issues, we have infrastructure issues, we have economic issues, getting businesses into our town. It's all one ball of wax. So I think my priority would be, as solving any problem, you start at the most severe and work your way down. We have to find ways to fix, what the citizens have told me when I go out and campaign. We have sewer issues, people with raw sewage backing up in their basement. We have water issues, people with brown water being able to open up a manhole cover and seeing water flow in a pipe. It's unsanitary. We have to get the major issues solved before we can convince businesses or anyone to come into our town. As far as the income tax, that may be in our future, but right now, I'm not in favor of it. I think our citizens are taxed enough, and some folks may not realize we are just 1,000 people away from being downgraded from a town to a village. It would be, for me, an embarrassment for our county seat to be merely a village. So I would try to get a handle on these severe problems and hold off on the tax issue for a while.
I agree with a lot of what Mr. Haney and Mr. Pierce have said. I think that economic development needs to be a top priority. I believe the means by which we do this is through more aggressive pursuit of grant funding opportunities and better management of city funds, not by taxing the working class people. I also believe that infrastructure is going to be an essential part because businesses won't want to come to Ironton if our streets are crumbling and our buildings are not ready for business. We also need to protect our essential service people. And I think most importantly, we need to give people a reason to want to move here. There's obviously no immediate solution to this, but I think we need to focus on expanding our tax base and making Ironton attractive to outside entities.
If elected, my top priority is economic development as well. I believe the solution to that is marketability. We need to make our town more marketable. Short term, we have to address the infrastructure, and long term, we would have to bring in the jobs. But first, let me get back to the short term. Short term, as you said, marketability, taxes is not going to, an income tax increase is not going to make us more marketable. Getting rid of our fire department will not make us more marketable. We have to do things that make us marketable. We also have to go out long term, once we've addressed these issues, and start aggressively seeking businesses to come in. That way, they're never going to just fall in our lap. We can't just expect businesses to show up on our front door and just start investing. We have to give them a reason why to come here. Right now, what's their reason other than living here? So we have to make ourselves more marketable. That way we can tackle economic development.
Thank you. I feel two, actually, the most pressing problems for Ironton right now is our police force. They're severely understaffed. With the opioid crisis, we had some discussion Thursday. It's just frightful. It's terrible. And along with that, we have a $11 million unfunded mandate from the federal government. I don't know how we're going to pay for it. It's $11 million to separate the sewers on the southern end of town. Along with that, we have $600,000 that we're going to have to come up with to renovate the water department where we make our water. We don't want to be feeding our children mercury and lead like Flint, Michigan, but thank you. But we have to do that. I mean, it's not something that we can say, well, we can do it later. On top of that, I just want everybody here to realize the debt that's coming down the road. We're $11 million in debt now. We're going to exceed $24 million, in my opinion. Behind those two things, the separation of the sewers in the southern end of town, which is unfunded, that's what's got us mainly with our fees now, is the $9 million we've spent on the northern end of town. That was an unfunded mandate that we don't get credit for. But we have the sewer plant coming up behind there that's going to be in the millions of dollars because it will have to be, most probably, rather than renovated, replaced. I think I'm time up.
Coming into office, I did the same thing. Rush in and say, we got to battle economic development. That's what's going to change. And everybody's been on council and they're old and they have no new ideas. And then I walked in. And then I got faced with all of the EPA violations and the mandates and everything that goes with that we cannot get out of. So we had to take a step back. Is economic development a priority? Yes, and that's what we've been working towards. The EPA looked at me and said, Jobs Ohio will not bring jobs to your community if you are not in compliance with the EPA. They come to us, they tell us, nope, they're not in compliance. That business just went out the door. So Ironton wasn't even positioned. So we have spent the last 4 years cleaning up EPA violations, dealing with infrastructure issues, things that had been swept under the rug for so long because they're not popular. And they're not popular for you to sit back here and clap. But they're necessary to make our city grow forward. And so, yes, economic development has to be the priority. The issue is our people are already our workers are already overworked. They're doing double duty. We've got supervisors that are working or dealing with 3 departments, not just one. And so everybody's working together trying to move Ironton forward. We laugh and we say we reuse, recycle, and repurpose everything that we do. And so, yes, economic development is a priority. It's been a priority for everybody, but we had to clean up what wasn't done in the past in order for us to focus on economic development.
Looking ahead 4 years from now, what are the biggest improvements that you hope to accomplish if elected? And we'll start with Jim Tordiff.
Before I forget, you can't talk about finances and economic development in 2 minutes. I'm holding a forum right here Tuesday at 7 o'clock. I hope you all come. It's going to be live streamed. I'm going to give a presentation on the finances of the city and give the audience a chance to have a question and answer period. I'm a realist. If I go to the doctor and if I have heart trouble or if I have cancer, I want to know the truth. And I have faith that this community wants to know the truth. I have expertise in finance. If you want me to continue if you want to get the benefit of my expertise in finance, I'll be glad to do it. If my time has come and gone and you don't want me, we're still going to be friends. This is not a life and death matter. I can tell you that economic development is not the responsibility of the mayor and council. That's not criticism for anybody that thinks differently. Every councilman that I've worked with in the last 40 years, they come on with that same thought. They find out very quickly businesses will not talk to councilmen and mayors because they fear they can't be confidential. They'll leak things out. They're going to try to have a feather in their own cap, and they won't talk to them. That's the reason that there are economic development corporations like LEDC. LEDC and Ralph Klein is the city's economic development team. LEDC and Ralph Klein is the city's economic development team. That's just the way it is. They are working hard. They've been successful putting 2 hotels in and other businesses. What I want to sit down and talk with you about Tuesday at 7 o'clock is to give you an understanding of what the city's finances are. The city is $24 million in debt. They keep going further in debt, trying to put Band-Aids on things to be sensitive to your billfold. And I've been part of that. There comes a time that if you do want to grow, you have to have money.
Okay. Like I said earlier, my goal is to become more efficient. Inefficiency to me this is coming from the minutes of the Finance Committee. There are around 630 zero-read water meters. That is about 1/7 of the total water meters in the city of Ironton. Do you guys understand that? These are malfunctioned. Council has talked about repairing them. These things are still under warranty. 1/7 of the meters. Go down the block and count every 7th house. Go down and count. That's inefficiency to me. So my goal is, obviously, it wouldn't take 4 years. It may take a month or 2. I've actually talked to city workers about repairing them. All it is 2 nuts. Have somebody take a truckload of water meters up to the factory, come back, put them in, have a crew of 2 or 4 people. They said they could do about 20 in a day if they didn't run into any problems. So basically, my goal is to become more efficient. Also, my goal would be to, when grants are available, my goal would be to obtain those grants, like the $300,000 we missed out on just last week that came out in the Tribune today. That was total, once again, inefficient, but it was also neglectful. It was also, I believe, laziness just to not, all you have to do is show up, have the meeting, vote on it, and get $300,000. It wasn't guaranteed, but at least you have a shot at getting it. Now we have no shot at getting it. So if you guys want to add up the figures, go ahead, but 1/7 of sewer water, 1/7 of water production, and 1/7 of drainage, that's a lot of money. That's over, and Mr. Elam says it's about $300,000 just this year alone. So add that up over about 5 or 6 years.
Could you repeat the question, please? I think we got a little off track there.
Looking ahead 4 years from now, what are the biggest improvements that you hope to accomplish if elected?
So in 4 years as my term as mayor, we've talked about the grant a lot, so that project's going to happen in this next 4 years. So that'll be one I believe that in 4 years we can check that off the list. I believe the tainted water that we deliver to end users and to customers of the village of Coal Grove is a product of our aging infrastructure and the manganese buildup in those lines. I think the biggest improvement we can make in Coal Grove is to implement preventive maintenance solutions for our water distribution. We haven't flushed our lines. We've neglected to flush our lines. The EPA says that we need to be doing that twice a year. I see Ironton in the paper doing it twice a year. We do not do that. So I believe for every system that we have, we need to create a preventive maintenance plan for, and we need to implement these things. The situation as it is, when that water doesn't, when those lines don't get flushed, there's buildup there. So with our new infrastructure, we want to maintain it properly so that we get even a longer life out of that system. So I believe we can knock the dirty water off the list in my 4-year term with a new infrastructure. Secondly on that list, the economic development, to just make moves and make Coal Grove more marketable to places. We have a huge amount of traffic, thanks to a lot of people in Ironton that use our exit. The traffic counts that we have there on Marion Pike next to the Speedway are off the charts. They're a lot higher than what our 2,100 residents in our village would typically get, but that's because a lot of people in Ironton come through Coal Grove, and that should be very conducive to any business that wants to come there. Next to Wendy's, we have a vacant lot there, and I believe in my 4-year term, we can get something there. The goal would be to have a nice restaurant, a sit-down place, but a lot of that would be something that we could bring along. Also, we have a huge problem with our intersection at the top of the there where 243 and US 52 meet. I've spoken to our engineer, Patrick Laity. There is a roundabout in the works, so possibly by looking at traffic surveys, we can talk about maybe implementing roundabouts to make the traffic flow better and have commerce come through our village. I could have gone on for a lot longer.
To dovetail onto what my cohorts have spoken about, we have to get a handle on the most severe problems in our town. We have to create a plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. As I went around talking to people while I was campaigning, there was anger. The folks think, well, they know the problems. There's little revenue, we have bad infrastructure, and they think that there's a city government that's not listening to them. I believe this is a time for a new approach to that. I think this is a time for new faces and new ideas, perhaps. I know it's human nature to be angry when things like infrastructure don't supply the basic needs you expect, but I'll say this. It's not a time for anger. It's a time for stern determination. Instead of division, we need unity among the council and the city government. Thanks. We need clear thinking and decisions. We need to take a different turn, different direction in things. I think I can do that, and in 4 years, I think we can make a difference in our city and put us on a path that puts us to be a 21st century city. Thank you.
All right.
If elected, what I hope to do is bring a fresh perspective to the table. I sense that there's a lot of negativity regarding Ironton's future, It's not a secret that we're in a financial crisis right now, but I don't think that the solution is by placing a burden on the 25% of citizens that are paying an income tax. If we're going to focus on what hasn't been done, I think we should be asking ourselves, why are we continuing to keep these individuals around? We need transparency in our city government. I think that what I want to see 4 years from now, there is no way of predicting what's going to happen, but what I want to see is more young people getting involved and more positivity about Ironton being spread.
So in the next 4 years, I would like to have accomplished addressing our infrastructure needs and keeping the burden off the citizens through taxes and fees. I think we have to dig deep into the budget and look and see what savings we can find in there. Looking over it just the other night, felt like we found a lot of savings in there already. Anyways, but we have to change the "it's not my job" culture. We have to take ownership of what we were elected to do. Nothing screams community support more than the person that was elected by the people telling them, "We want your business here." Not some board that the people did not vote on. I feel like long-term, 4 years, set us up for long-term job growth and financial stability. Sorry, I'm hogging it.
That's okay. I want to back up a little bit and explain a little bit about the economic development. What Jim has told you is correct. The LEDC is our economic development agency. CAO is primarily our grant agency. The city of Ironton pays them $35,000 to research and present grants that were available for. The LEDC controls all the tax initiatives, the tax abatements with CAO, the grants, and they have all the land. They control the Malibu property, the gas stations that's closed down. The mayor doesn't control it, nor does council. I've approached several businesses on my time with council to try to encourage them to come town, but they still are turned over to the LEDC for their offerings, what they can do to bring them in. I've approached the Thomas Dewitt Center for an example, Mr. Van Hoos at Big Sandy, to no avail, but still, like James said, they don't want to work with politicians, they want to work through your economic development agencies. My hope for our future is, and everybody I think is on the same page, we're broke. We need money, and then some people think we can cut fees or this or that. We raise fees when we have to because we can't submit a budget to the county in the red. Saying that, I want to pass the income tax to invest in our community, to prepare our infrastructure and just the economic climate to invite people in, and we can raise the steam level on LEDC and the CAO. Those are the people that are going to bring things in, and I think if we do what they say, if we have to annex streets or whatever, that will put the pressure on them to help us.
Much talk tonight is about economic development, and we hear everybody wanting to say, yes, economic development, but nobody's telling us how we're going to go about that. It's just, yes, I want to, but there's no plan. On October 22nd, the Ohio Resource Network is coming into Ironton, and we're going to develop that plan. And it is a grant that I was able to obtain to have outside people come into here, not us politicians, looking at the same stuff. Somebody on the outside coming in, the Ohio Policy Center, coming in and talking with us, looking at our stakeholders and seeing how we operate. Then they give us and help us develop a 5-year or a multi-year budget that has an economic development piece to that to help us get over that hump, to identify what is Ironton's stumbling blocks and how do we overcome those stumbling blocks. And so we've got to look at our industrial and commercial places. Industrial, we're already working on the infrastructure on South 3rd Street to repair that so we can entice businesses to come to the Ironton Iron, to come to the industrial park, to come to the Honeywell property. Commercial, you've already seen the number of businesses that have storefronts, brand new storefronts on them. They are working to get businesses in. We've had over 15 new businesses in the city of Ironton since I've been in administration. We have to look at housing. So we have to be able to provide housing that people can come in and want to, that's a tax base that can be able to pay the income tax. We already have great education. We don't even have to tap into that. Community development. CAO's already working on helping us with grants for the riverfront so we can have a walking path, so we can live healthy lifestyles. The commerce, the hotel, sorry. I have a passion for this and I like to talk.
To carry on what Mr. Holmes said, I agree 100% that our main priority is our water distribution, and that's already in the works. So within the 4 years of the council term, that should be finished. But another priority is paying for it. And I'd like to see there be some budget cuts, or just not cuts, but rebudgeting, so that the money can be spent on paying back that loan without passing that on to the people. The people of Coal Grove don't want to have to pay more on their water bill, more on their taxes, more fees. That's an important thing that we need to address, and I want us to be able to pass as little of that financial burden on to the people as we can. And another priority is our police department. We have a great police department, but we are very understaffed. I feel they're very understaffed. I'd like to see more officers hired by the village. I'd like to see them have any training that they can get, that they would like to get, to improve them, or the way they can respond to calls, the way they can deal with the drug epidemic and work with the task force if need be. However we need to do it, I'd like to see our police department grow in number and grow in knowledge and how they handle the calls. And businesses in Coal Grove is a huge asset, of course, but we have to make Coal Grove marketable. We have to have decent sidewalks. We have to have decent buildings. We have a lot to offer. We just need to work on making it marketable to bring businesses in and bring families in so people want to be in our community. And community involvement is one of my biggest passions.
This is a question for Ironton candidates. Currently, the city's grant funding is outsourced to the Community Action Organization at a cost to the city of over $34,000 per year, along with administrative fees of up to 20% of received funds. Do you feel the current model of seeking grant funding is the best option for creating a sustainable economic future for the city? If yes, why? If no, what are your plans to change it moving forward? And we'll start with Chris Haney.
I do not believe that the current grant writing structure is best for the city. What the problem is you have an outside entity that you are paying that really has no investment in your city other than they're a business in your city. We need to have there's one of two things we could do. We could either count on the elected mayor to drastically increase their amount of grant seeking and grant writing and have the administrative staff help with grant seeking and grant writing, or we could also we could contract out an independent grant writer at the fee of whatever percentage. They would get a percentage of the grants. I don't see why in the budget and the crisis that they say we're in, we're paying almost $40,000 to a grant writer that there's no way of knowing if they're going to get grants or not. Granted, we did get a water walking path along the flood wall. Okay, that's great and all, but did that do anything for the infrastructure of our city? Did that do anything to bring businesses in town? Did that help a small business incubator? No, that is a walking path for the citizens to use, and that is fine. But in the situation we are in, we should not be going after grants for walking paths. We should be going after grants for infrastructure, going after grants for businesses, going after grants that's going to improve the quality of our infrastructure to bring businesses in to help economic development. And it, you know, I've been outspoken about this in city council meetings, is I don't understand why we are paying somebody out of our budget to write grants that's not invested in the city. They need to be invested, they need to put their heart into it, and they need to, you know, basically be a team player for the city of Ironton. Yeah.
Well, the situation seems pretty straightforward to me. Grant money is great, and it provides some jobs for our community, perhaps. But I think you have to look at the entity and see if what they're doing is a positive in the overall picture. If we're paying them X amount of dollars and they're producing, I don't want to use the word trivial, but small amounts of grant, then it perhaps is not worth it. If the entity can produce worthwhile grant money that's meaningful, as Mr. Haney said, to our infrastructure, to our development of our town, then it would be worth it. That's it.
I agree with a lot of things Mr. Haney and Mr. Pierce have said. I think that it's apparent that the CAO has done a lot of great things, but I do agree that we should be focusing on a competitive model of generating grant opportunities. I think that this could be in tandem with what the CAO already does. We have money set aside for the CAO. I think that we need more incentive and more competition in grant funding opportunities.
Yeah, to run off of the last couple guys, I believe the CAO, I would like to keep them writing grants because I do think they do a good job. However, I do think we should be contracting out, not paying a stipend, salary, whatever, $34,000 plus to them. I believe we should pay a percentage to each grant writer based on their production level. We need grant writers to write for government grants, job grants, infrastructure grants, arts grants, someone who specializes in each different type of grant, not one uniform group that specializes in one thing. So, I mean, Scioto County in the late 2000s was a part of a 50-mile sewer water separation project that was a $400 million grant funded by the state. So why aren't we getting grants like that? I feel that we have to have people tackling each part of our city's needs, not just one thing. And we'll pay them a percentage based on how well they do, not just a flat salary.
I can't disagree with much that's been said by the three candidates here, and I would like to see an internal grant writer down the road when we can afford it. CAO does more than what we actually see because there's so many things, the grants that they get is kind of unseen. I've always felt that I would like to have an economic department and a grant writer internally in the city of Ironton. But you've got to understand grants were like apples on a tree 15 years ago. It's not so now. And some of the grants that's been mentioned, we go after many, many grants that we don't get because there's so many people after that grant, federal grants and state grants. So you got to understand, just like the paving, and that was $600,000, that was later reduced. It was a $600,000 grant for paving. We went for that during Rich Blankenship's term. He got it the first year. 7 years he applied faithfully and worked hard at it, and we refused. We didn't get it. So you got to understand, grants are out there, but it's very competitive. Little thing on, since I got some time, on the economic development part of it, that we're not doing anything. The mayor and I have went to several seminars trying to understand how we can develop an economic department. We went to the city of Delaware. I just encourage all of you to go to Delaware. It's a wonderful, wonderful town of 10,000 10 years ago, and now they've doubled their population. It's unbelievable. I hated to come back home. It was great, but you know, the grants, there's been a tremendous effort to, you know, get as many grants as we can. It's not that we just sat there. A lot of grants we were denied.
Can you hear me? Are grants sustainable? No. And we cannot always depend on grants. So economic development has to be the front and center of our strategies. But guys, I was very critical of the CAO LEDC when I walked in, and I was very vocal about it. But I want to give people credit where credit's due and not always put down, but even recognize. When they say that the CAO, you know, there's other things that they could be doing, they're instrumental in the infrastructure, the critical infrastructure grant that helped the Moulton's Field project to keep you all from being flooded. The Bromberg building, that grant was finally received, and that will be in loft apartments with a restaurant downstairs. Municipal bridge program to do the 5th Street Bridge. The riverfront, that bike and path, that was done at the city of Ironton, not the CAO. CDBG and RLF funds, all that money, your Gateway Center over here, that's all CAO, LEDC, Port Authority. Every bit of that. That's millions of dollars, not thousands, millions. Farmers Market, a spec building at the old Ironton Steel building, that's currently going up right now. The Rone, capital dollars from the state, they're responsible for getting that money to help restore our beautiful Rone facility. OPWC grants, like he was saying, we submit these grants year after year, but we get denied because those grants are competitive. And if we don't have what we call skin in the game, other people score higher and they get those grants and we don't. And Cuyahoga with the paving. So I don't want to put the CAO down. I've been very critical, but I'm learning the process and I'm learning about it. We, the citizens, or the elected officials, have to be more involved in that and developing a plan for them to go after what we want.
I have a question.
Is it his turn?
How do you all feel about this 9th Street development? I come here to hear something positive, and all I hear is all this negative stuff. I go down through 9th Street, and there's a lot of growth there, a lot of jobs there.
Yes.
Why aren't you talking about that? Be positive.
Mr. Tortif, if you'd like to answer the question.
The mayor mentioned what a great job they did down there. It is a great thing. And in conjunction with these ladies, what they're doing, we're trying to turn it around. And I think the grant, or what is it, the Gateway Project is great. It took out a lot of blighted property, and it's wonderful. You see it from the highway. But I invited Mrs. Holliday, a county commissioner, to one of our meetings. And I said, it's wonderful. It was the greatest thing. That happened the 6 years I was off council. Now, I still got tricked. They say I was there 20 years. But I told her it would take 60 of those type of developments to raise $1 million of income tax. It's great. It's a great start. And now they've got a new one. And we're trying to be positive. We're trying to put the income tax. I mean, that might have possibly got me beat. I don't care.
Thank you. Sorry, we're going to stick to the agenda. We have a lot more questions to get through. And if you'd like to submit one, there are cards in the hallway there.
Good question, Dan. Thank you.
My opinion, after 40 years of working with Ralph Klein, is that he is honest, he is knowledgeable, he is hardworking, and I think the city absolutely gets a bargain for $35,000 for his experience and expertise. And the things that he's done and brought into this community, I don't have written down, but it is phenomenal. So if the city would ever get into a financial condition where they could expand the economic development department, that would certainly be nice, but the fact is we don't have the money right now. One of the candidates talked a few minutes ago about inefficiencies. I want to make the point before I forget it that it's not neglect. You know, the water meter problem we have right now that he brought up is accurate. If he gets in on council, he'll find out very quickly it doesn't stop right there. Many of our water lines have leaks, so we're spending money treating water that we're not getting any payments for. But that's not because we don't have hardworking people that would like to go out and fix them. That's because we don't have the money. A while back, council and the mayor sat down with American Water Company. We thought, well, maybe we can save the citizens some money if we were to privatize the water department. And one of the things they brought to our attention very quickly, the rates will go up if we buy it. The rates will go up substantially because we will start a water replacement line program that, you know, it's like at your house. You can't let things go. The city has let things go, not because they don't know better, not because of neglect, because they don't have the money. One of the things that we did that I encouraged when I got back on council was have a 5-year plan, which we've developed now. And if you look at that plan, you know, if that's what prompted the talk about the income taxes. We saw very quickly we're going to be $2 million more in debt in 5 years. Come back Tuesday at 7, please.
Besides large industry, what can a village or city do to improve its economy in terms of small businesses and local vendors? What can you do to help build a more entrepreneurial economy in your village or city in an effort to retain youth? We'll start with Andy Holmes on this one.
Well, you know, as a mayor, I think some of the things we mentioned earlier with the infrastructure is always important in order to bring economic development. But I think when a company is looking around to see where they want to relocate, they look for a workforce. They look for the type of community that they're moving into. And as a mayor, when you can bring everyone together and have unity and create community action and organization, I think these are the types of places that businesses are looking to move to. Beyond infrastructure and beyond these types of things that are a given that we obviously need to work on. It's just a matter of what your community looks like and when you look in the mirror. And you know, one thing that I'm really proud of is that working with the land bank and bringing to their attention blighted homes in our community, we've probably per capita got more benefit from the land bank than any other community in Lawrence County. They've spent about $250,000 and tore down 16 structures in the village of Coal Grove. And just removing this blight alone is just what we are perceived when potential entrepreneurs come to our community and look around. With this blight gone, you know, the land bank planted trees and now there's grass growing where there used to be nuisance vegetation and blighted homes. So I think these are some of the things that we can continue to do and some of the things that we've done as a council. So I think we're headed in the right direction, and that'll be my goal, to keep us moving that way.
Some of the businesses that we can attract to our community, I think we have to begin thinking in a 21st century kind of fashion. Biopharmaceutical industries, biotech testing, digital media. We have these hotels coming in. We can, conferences, arts-based businesses. We need to create a diversified economy. If you think of it as strands of a rope, no one strand can support the weight we need, but the more strands, the more businesses we get, the better overall economy we have. Bringing in one giant business, it would be great if we could do that and have 600 jobs. That's not likely. Those businesses are more 20th century than 21st. More likely, we're going to attract these 21st century businesses. It's my understanding, for instance, that Collins Career Center is the #4 robotics teaching facility in the state. As far as I know, there are no robotics industries around here, but we have an available workforce for them. So I would invest and look to attract those kinds of businesses. Thank you.
As far as generating industry in the city of Ironton, I think the main way that we do this is by finding a way to make Ironton more marketable. I think we have a lot of positive qualities. We're a safe community and we're a beautiful community. And like Mr. Pierce said, we need to be focusing on a diversified economy. I think we do a great job of supporting our local businesses, and we can always do more of that. We need to support a culture of supporting local businesses. And I think we need to put our money where our mouth is.
Can you repeat the question again?
Besides large industry, what can a village or city do to improve its economy in terms of small businesses and local vendors? What can you do to help build a more entrepreneurial economy in your village or city in an effort to retain youth?
So we have to keep a stable foundation, and that's by supporting our local businesses that we do have and doing everything we possibly can to keep them here. We allowed a family that had a business here for decades, Tipton's Bakery, to go to Ashland. This is a guy, Tank Whaley, he's got a hometown hero banner outside here, or the high school. We can't allow that to happen. We got to have buy-in from everybody here. Start with our foundation, have a strong foundation. That way we can allow people to want to invest and bring things to our downtown. That's, I think, everywhere I've been around the country, that's where it starts. What's their downtown look like? Right now, it's just empty buildings for the most part, and then the businesses that have been here for many years, and then the vault, and we have a couple other new ones that have come in here recently. We have to fill up that space and keep it local. And by doing so, that's the way that you're going to attract people to want to live here or live downtown in these lofts that they're going to create. No one's going to want to live in those lofts unless there's something downstairs and it's convenient. Otherwise, you're just dealing with finding a parking spot every day.
All those were good ideas, I think, but I think we're missing a few avenues that we should incorporate, broaden our horizon and bring in Coal Grove, the Votech School, and Ohio University in a discussion group, how we can further this region, and speaking mainly of southern Lawrence County. I remember when I was back at the hospital that we engaged with Ohio University, that they were producing students, and still are to a certain extent, degrees that they come out and there's no job waiting for them. We had them to create an RN school there that really helps, because there is still positions in Ironton for RNs with the home health facilities, but the local hospitals are close enough that they can commute to those. But like one of the fellows said, that they have courses out there. I think Brady is heavily involved with the Votech School, and ACT is also, but I think that's what we should do to expand where we're trying to go to engage with these people. I think, Coal Grove is like Ironton to me, just a sister city. I think on times we should engage with them to see if we could, secure something, an industrial park that would be equally valuable to both communities. And I think Coal Grove, as well as Ironton, has kind of overlooked each other. It's always kind of together but separate. We really need to engage with our educational system here, with Ohio University and Votech, and see if we can't bring the businesses, like they said, the large businesses are out. We're not going to get a 600 employee, but like Ironton, West Virginia, they were in the same boat 15 years ago, and they developed their industrial parks. And, they have small optical plants, machine plants that have 50 or 60 employees that by the time they got 10, they got their 600. But the problem with a big company, if they go out, then you're hurt. If you have 10 smaller companies that with good pay, if one goes down, you still have breath.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay. Thank you.
That is a wonderful question, and that is exactly what we've been working towards these past 4 years. Mr. Holmes said with the land bank, did you know in Ironton there has been 60 structures taken down? And so I've been very proud of my work on that board. That goes hand in hand with wanting to bring businesses here, wanting people to reside here. We've got to clean up the neighborhoods, and we've got to get the trash up. People's got to be held accountable for their property rather than just chucking, your trash out back and let the rats and rodents come. We've got a new slum and blight program in, and we're pushing forward with that. We've had over 200 citations in 1 year trying to get this city cleaned up. Special events, having the Rone in your downtown to be able to have a place for people to come and have special events. $20 goes into the local community for every ticket sold at a theater. Our roads, we have to do something about our roads. We haven't had a plan forever. And so that's what we worked with Kiowa to develop a study on how we're going to address our roads. We've got to continue business revitalization, storefronts being updated, providing a place that people want to come and hang out. If it's dirty, we don't want to go there. If it's not safe, we're not going to hang out there. And so we got to continue to push property owners, people that own buildings downtown, and push them to clean up their buildings so it is available for people to come in and operate a business. But you can't ask for $1,000 a month for rent, especially when people are not accommodated to going downtown and shopping. They're going to go to Walmart. And so they've got to be able to work with them a progressive rent structure to where people can get in, get established, and then get to a place where they can pay the quality rent.
I think we need to continue and to make our village more appealing to people. Make it more appealing to people who want to come there and move and who want to start small businesses. Coal Grove's not a large village, and it will be wonderful to have a large company come in, or even just a restaurant with a few employees. But where it will grow the most, I believe, is if we bring people in who move into the village, who have a small business, who get involved with the community, and we have more community events and more community functions. Having just an event in Coal Grove can bring in a lot of people. It'll bring in vendors, it'll bring in craft people. There's all kinds of events that we could have, but we have to draw the people in first. We want our village to be beautiful. It is, but there's so many things that we could do to make it better. We could work on the storefronts, we could clean up the streets, we could repave the streets. To bring in the people and to bring in the small businesses to make a huge difference.
Everything's not sophisticated. You might think this kind of sounds childish, but when I was mayor, and I'm sure Bob did, and I'm sure Katrina does, and anybody else here there's been several mayors, but I kept a little black book. Your job doesn't stop at 4 o'clock. You're constantly got your feelers out, just trying to look for anything. One success story I had was I had 2 good friends. Well, Chapman Drug called me one day when I was mayor and said, bad news, we're leaving town. And I just thought, you as the mayor, you ought to know that. You're going to lose these jobs, you're going to lose the tax dollars. And for you people that are too young, there used to be a Chapman Drug up here where the bowling alley is now. So I got off the phone, and right away I thought of 2 friends that I had, Jeff Dillow and Greg Justice, that had traveled the state trying to see what it would cost to build a new bowling alley in our city, and it was cost prohibitive. And even though it was a long shot, I just got on the phone and called Greg. I played softball with those guys for years. And I said, Greg, you guys still interested in a bowling alley? Well, remotely. And I said, well, I was talking with the guy from Chapman Drug, and they're going to close it, but the lanes are still there. They used them as walkways for the owls, for the drugs, but the lane, would you go up with me and look at it? Yeah, I'll go up there with you and look at it. Long story short, over a period of months, went up there, everything came together. They were able to put in spare time and create a success story, okay? Sometimes that's the way it happens. I agree that you got to bring people into the city, and one idea I like is Chris's idea. Chris has a good idea about a sports complex. That takes money. That's one thing that the income tax could help facilitate. It's not a coincidence that some of the sports complex doesn't ring a bell with some of you that don't play ball, but it brings a lot of people into the community.
There's a lot of good points that's been brought up. One, I want to hit on a couple things. Working in unison with Coal Grove is big. That area of town that was formerly the chemical, Allied Chemical, Ironton Iron, that area of town that leads into Coal Grove needs to be developed. That is one of the biggest assets Ironton currently has. Mr. Holmes mentioned that he wants to, revitalize the riverbank in Coal Grove. I think that would be a perfect partnership because whatever helps Coal Grove in that end of town is going to help Ironton. Whatever helps Ironton is going to help Coal Grove. That is an area that you have access to water, you have access to rail, you have access to highway. Right? I mean, just right up, is it Marion Pike?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, that's almost like a common sense area for things like that to happen and for Ironton and Coal Grove to work together. Another thing that I want to mention is things that's been going on in the city of Ironton that has been like upstarts from some of our young citizens and business owners. The girls at the Vault. Over the summer, they had it was like a summer evening thing. That brought a lot of people into the downtown area. There was a group that started a concert. It was a High River Revival. That brought many people in. It showed off another asset that Ironton has is the river. I don't think that is used enough. I think, obviously you could have water recreation. You could have many things to do with that. But I think the seeds have been planted by the young people in the city that they want to see new people come in. They want to see events. They want to see things. And when you bring people in like that are spending money, spending tax dollars, you will see businesses follow. So basically, we just need to put together a plan, not only to work with Coal Grove, but also work with our young people.
Economists at the U.S. Department of Agriculture found that rural areas that are home to arts organizations experience population growth 3 times faster than rural areas lacking them, and that 2 out of 3 businesses report that arts and entertainment are important to attracting and retaining workers. What's your plan to prioritize arts and culture, increase awareness of the economic and community development potential offered by doing so, and grow cooperation among our creators, government, and nonprofits? And we'll start with Mike Pierce on this question.
As I've traveled around a lot of states, a lot of communities, the ones that are successful seem to have a core of their town, if you want to call it the old part of town. This is from Okeechobee City in Florida, Greenville, South Carolina, probably, I'm guessing, Delaware, Ohio. The crux of the city, the old part, is revitalized in a sense. And there's attractive events, sort of, if you will, an artsy feel to it. Places where people can go and be entertained, theaters, different kinds of storefronts, different kinds of unique restaurants, things that pull people in and provide a form of entertainment. Our town is wide open for that kind of thing. Again, that's kind of a 21st century thought and a change of our culture, but I think it's something we can look at. And we have the rest of our town, aside from that core. I always remember the Kresge store when I grew up, and that area around there could really be developed into an arts and entertainment kind of area. And having that as part of my background, I know that can be done. So that's my thoughts on that.
I'm a huge supporter of the arts. I went to school at OU in Athens. I think they have a really great thing going on up there. Obviously, Ironton is different, but I think that there are a lot of talented and innovative individuals in Ironton. Just recently, I went to an event at the Mailroom Studios. What they're doing there is insane. It's so crazy. They're filming music videos, and there's also, I think a great deal of people that came out for the Ohio River Revival. Just a couple weeks ago, we had the Pumpkins on Vernon, where there are a lot of craft salespeople. I think that this is awesome. I think it's crucial to the future of our city that we embrace these types of events, and this is what attracts people. This is the kind of tourism that needs to bring people to Ironton, and I have lots of friends from outside the area that see the strengths of Ironton. Sometimes it's hard for us to recognize it, but I think that we have a lot to offer, and supporting the arts and supporting innovative and talented people is going to be crucial to that.
And it's not just in urban society or rural societies where this is happening, it's also happening in urban societies. If you look at, even here in Ohio, we have Over the Rhine, the neighborhood 5-6 years ago was run down, dilapidated buildings, and now it's thriving. They can't even find space, a business can't even find a space in time for them to, revitalize a building. It's moving so fast. Short North in Columbus, same situation. But it's also happening here in our area too, just not exactly in Ironton. There's the Boney Fiddle District in Portsmouth, which is, I believe, moving in the right direction. And also Pullman Square. What do we have over them? I believe this is the safest community to live in versus Huntington and Portsmouth. And I believe that would make those people that are interested in these kind of things want to move here. At least spend their money here.
I appreciate many people that do things in Ironton. Friends of Ironton have brought many productions to the Ronay Theater. Abby and Amanda, that festival was incredible this summer. We also have the Ironton Artist Associations that I had many displays in the library from them. We had Wizard Face display. I think that was the first one when I was at the library. We had a huge display for Wizard Fest in the library. But I'd like to go back to Delaware for a while and tell you what the community did for Delaware. They had a city building, an old building, sandstone building, and it was from 1818. And they revitalized that thing, and they took the old with the new, and they had an adjacent building that they put a skywalk between the two buildings. And the community, if I'm right, you might correct me, Mayor, but I think the community invested $2.5 million in that one building. And for that, they got the whole ground floor, and it was amazing. They had a theater just for the employees in there. They had a full-blown kitchen just for the employees in that building, but they had cubicles. And you could see the pipes in the ceiling all painted immaculately, and then they'd have glass partitions, and they might have an engineer there, insurance agent there, but the concerted effort from the public with their money invested there, along with the city's money, they accomplished great things, and I just can't get over it. It was wonderful, and that's why I support the income tax. I think even though it's going to be a struggle for many people, that's going to put our best foot forward to invest in our community and, get us going again.
Am I on yet? Okay. Another great question, and another situation that we're already trying to tackle. I said previously that we've already sunk several $100,000s into the Ronay through grants just to be able to provide a platform for people to exercise their arts. We're talking about tourism right now, and we're trying to develop a plan. Yes, it includes a sports complex, but it tries to draw in Wayne National Forest. It taps into the riverfront, that maybe Ironton can be a destination place. We're only 2.5 hours away from Columbus. People love to get away from the city life and to be able to come down and see our lush landscapes and our Wayne National Forest and be able to do recreation on the riverfront. But you're right. Let me back up. Ironton is a sports community. Very little gets put into the arts. But there is stuff for the arts right here at Ohio University, at Ironton High School, in the Ronay. These girls have done an excellent job downtown with the market. There's all of these resources that Ironton Alive is doing. So that stuff is coming together. It's just taking time. And it's a matter of developing a full, comprehensive plan to be able to do that. And it also takes you. With everything that we said here and all these special events, the young people has got involved. These are not events that the city puts on. These are private people doing that, and so we're encouraging you to partner with us. Get involved because Ironton is open for business.
Coal Grove has a beautiful park that's underutilized. Right now, they're having new equipment put in, but it draws in people at Christmas time for the lights, and we've had the 4th of July there, the 3-day festival that they have over the 4th of July, and I think we should utilize the park more. We could have festivals, song fests, community events. You could have that monthly, and you could encourage the school to become involved too. We have a great school system there. We could use the kids from the school, the band from the school, and that way we can draw the parents in and the community in from not just in Coal Grove, but the surrounding area of Coal Grove.
The Ronay is the catalyst for that. I can tell you that Ralph Klein's dream is for the Gateway Project growth to eventually go clear to 2nd Street. So there would be a path of small business that leads right to the downtown area. And it has been a slow project. Friends of Ironton has done the bulk of it as their funds have allowed. And again, you know, the reality of it is it takes money. And that's something that additional revenue streams would be applied towards, would be to try to create those types of atmospheres. Go over to Ashland, Kentucky, some night when there is a national music event going on and see what the atmosphere is like. And that's my dream for the Ronay, is to get it to the point where we could actually schedule events there and have artists that everybody recognizes, and to bring a large number of people into our downtown area.
I agree that the Ronay is a big part of the forefront of what we're trying to bring into the community. Speaking from personal experience, my daughter, she goes to competitive dances. And it seems like every community we go to, there's the convocation center, and there are so many things surrounding that convocation center, and I think the Ronay could become that. I've actually looked at blueprints of what they're trying to do with the Ronay, and it's excellent. It's basically, maybe push the stage out, make the stage bigger, things like that to make a big improvement of it. If you bring things like that into town, you don't have to bring top-notch performers. You don't have to bring this or that or expensive. You can keep the expenses down. You can have people coming into your community paying you to have their competitions or their events in your city. So not only are you generating the revenue from them just coming in, filling up their gas tank, eating at the restaurants. You are actually, obtaining a fee from them to actually rent out your property. And I think that's a huge start to it. But not only that, once, if anything's going to come in downtown, we've talked about, the citizens have to be involved. There's been a lot of things that's went back and forth the last few years that have kind of almost failed. The Rally on the River and the Gus Macker basketball tournament. I understand that some people may come in and not be the most polite people, but I think we as citizens need to work with outsiders and show them how good of the people we have, and I truly believe that our people are our biggest asset. So I would like to see more community involvement in activities like that once they come back in.
This is a great question for Coal Grove because last year we failed to get off our Family Fun Day around the July 4th date that we have had for probably the last 30 years. The reason given that we wasn't able to hold this Family Fun Day was because there just wasn't enough workforce to make the event happen. I think it's going to be the job of the mayor to bring the community together and to get all hands on deck to make these things possible. If elected mayor, I would create a recreational committee and involve citizens at large to be on this committee and just get them at the table. I think when things become the community's idea, there's more buy-in to that idea. And I think bringing them into the town hall and letting them join our meetings and letting their voice be heard as to what would go over in the village and what would be successful would be an important thing to have everyone involved. Our Betterment Club does a great job of putting some of these events together, but the fact is we're down to about 5 or 6 members that actively attend to the Betterment Club. So I think by creating a recreational committee that we could up those numbers and work with the Betterment Club, utilize the park. We were successful in a $75,000 DNR grant. It was a 75-25% match. We're under construction right now. We're going to make improvements to our stage. We're going to up our sound system and the electrical at the stage. So we're going to have a great facility to do some of these things. There's some people in the community that are already up there. There's a young lady who's doing planks in the park, and I drove through up there. It just happened to be why planks in the park was going on, and I was shocked to see that she had probably more than a dozen people, from young people to older people. So I think and she done this all on her own. So by just putting the word out there that these things are happening, we have the facilities for it, bringing the people together, we can make these things happen. And I can promise as mayor, I'll never allow the Family Fun Days to not happen again. We will be bringing that back.
Well, we've passed 7 o'clock, so we're going to just have one more question, and we'll start with Jacob Hawk on this one. Do you support the developmental disability levy for Lawrence County?
Absolutely. I support the developmental disabilities levy. I think that it can't be stated great enough how much that service means to me and means to my community. I think that every one of us knows someone affected by disability, and I can't think of a better place to put our money than to provide those services.
Yes, I agree with the DD levy as well. I think, definition of community is working together as a group and helping each other. So I'm all in for the DD levy.
I'm 100% for the levy, but you also have to understand, we try to educate those people. I would say MRDD tries to educate and train those people and give them hope for the future. What I would like to see Ironton do is revitalize our town and give these people a place to go, a place to work for their life, not till they're 21. What do we do with them when they're 21? They go home. They have no hope or anything. Until we start to turn this economy around, we need to place these people, if they're willing and able, to put them in places that they feel respect and satisfaction for themselves. and I do support it.
I don't think it's a surprise that that's a service that's needed. And I think Chuck is right too. What happens if we support that but we don't support our community? And our infrastructure dies, and the tax levy fails, and no more fees or whatever. What happens then? I'm encouraged with person-centered services and what they're doing and how they're pouring into these people. And these young men and women are getting out and they're depositing into our community. They pick up trash. They're getting involved. They come to my parks. We team up with them every day when they bring their kids in. And we're a great partner with them. So I encourage you to get out and support that.
Absolutely, 100% yes. I support it. I don't feel like I need to expound on that. I do. I support it. I feel like we need to give back, support them and the families.
No brainer. Done.
I agree with Mr. O'Leary in that we need somewhere for these people that are involved in this program as a community, not just Ironton, not just Coal Grove, not Lawrence County. Actually, I speak from years of experience with this, being an intervention specialist with a couple different schools. It seems like there's a lot of times that, they may not be able to, go out in the workforce and do certain things. This is definitely something that needs to be addressed, and also we need to create a partnership that allows some of these people that are affected by disabilities access to decent paying jobs, access to local events, access to these things. This is something that it's a problem nationwide that's the rates are increasing for developmentally disabled people. So we need to attack this head on and do what we can as a community to help this program and to not only to help them while they're in the program, but their life afterwards.
Yeah, being a resident of Coal Grove for 40 years, I'm a little bit biased because Tri-State Industries has been a part of our community for so long. I believe MRDD also has an office right next to our town hall. So yes, I support this wholeheartedly. I believe the Open Door School is a new tenant in that building now. So, and I appreciate them for choosing to come to Coal Grove. So yes, I support this levy.
Yes, I support the levy, and I'll do a little politicking for it. The Development Disabled Facility program is going to run a shortfall in 2020. And unless they get this levy passed, they will not be able to provide services. The agency has not been on the ballot for 13 years, since 2006, and they haven't increased the millage. What they're asking for, and I think there was a misconception in the Herald Dispatch, is a 2.5 mil levy, which basically comes out, if you're paying on a $100,000 property, you're going to pay $87.50. And folks, that's not too much to ask to service these folks. I've been involved with them for 30 years, one way or another. And I certainly encourage you to support this levy as well.
We had many more questions that were submitted, more than I've ever seen at my time in the Tribune, and I will share them with all the candidates so you will know what your voters are asking and interested in that we didn't have time for this evening. But now we'll have closing statements from each candidate, and we'll start with Sam Cramblett.
All right. So, if elected mayor, I can guarantee you that no one is going to work harder than I will. Round the clock, every day of the week, I will return every single one of your phone calls and address your concerns. I might not always give you the best answer that you want to hear, but I will tell you a yes or no, or what you want to know. Also, I will fight hard to make sure that we can set ourselves up for the future. That way, your children can grow up here, and we can continue to build our economic growth. We can't afford to lose people because of this tax levy. The people that work outside of the city, which I believe makes up a lot of us, are not only paying taxes in other parts of the area, but we're also looking at, so if I'm working in Ashland, 1.5% plus my 1% right now, add 3/4 to that, now I'm paying, 3.25. What makes me not want to just move to Ashland and pay the 1.5? Because I live here, right? It's because I'm invested in my community, and I want to invest in you all and give back to you guys.
Of course, I'm just the opposite. If we don't pass this, how can we ever feel that we're going to have the jobs for our people, our residents, our citizens here, rather than paying the two different income taxes? But back to Mr. Rapp's point, I'm very proud of Ironton, and I'll tell you why. We have a lot of problems, a lot of debt burden on us that we're going to have to deal with. But look at where we're at and what we have. We've lost 4,000 jobs in the last 3 or 4 decades, and we're still here, and with about the same services as we had in 1970. You think about that. We've overcome the loss of 4,000 great jobs, me being one. And we've still survived, and we've pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. And I think the income tax is an investment in our children's future too. So, thank you.
Everything said here tonight, I believe is already underway, and I think I have shown that it's already underway. I just encourage you to continue supporting our efforts. I believe we have touched things that have been swept under the rug and need to be exposed. I believe that we have built a foundation now and what we can grow. I believe it's time for a full-fledged economic development plan that covers every aspect of a community. I think we're on the right track. With Mr. Pierce, what he said about the DD, and it's a small price to pay. I usually don't go out and advocate for revenue because that's not my job. That is Ironton City Council. But the city of Ironton has had a 1% income tax since 1969 when we had a plethora of jobs. We don't have the jobs anymore, and we're only at 1%. So you can see what little revenue comes in to be able to do what we've been able to do. So it's a good testimony to my staff and the hard work that they perform each and every day with the little resources that we have. And Mr. Rapp, great strides have been made, and we're encouraged about all the jobs that have come to Ironton and the new community development and downtown revitalization, tourism. And so we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in Ironton.
I'm one of 4 people that's on the ballot for village council. There will be 2 vacant seats, so there's no incumbent. And I'm a newbie to politics, and I'm a newbie to Coal Grove governing body, but I believe that fulfilling the role of a council member is more than just sitting in a seat or an agreeable vote. We have to strive to keep the communications open with not only the mayor and the other council members, but with the community. We have to involve the residents, and we have to keep the communication open and let them feel like they're a part of all the decisions that are made. There are so many changes coming to Coal Grove and our governing body this year, a new mayor with the old mayor's not running, so we have 2 new people that's going to be vying for that seat. And we have to, for our village to thrive, we have to work together as a community. The council has to work together with the mayor regardless of who you vote for and who wins, we have to come together and work. We have to support the village council and we have to support the mayor, regardless of who it is. And regardless of who you choose wins or doesn't win, we still need to be supportive and an encouragement to them. Our village is facing the water issues right now, so we need to come together, work on that together, and I have no agenda. That's my big thing. I'm in this as an independent person running for this council seat with no agenda except to make the village the very best that it can be for families and for children to want to stay there. And I promise to work with the mayor and the council to accomplish the goals that we set and to work for the people.
What started the whole conversation about the income tax was the 5-year plan that I mentioned earlier. If council would sit back and not do anything and let the bottom fall out, you folks would be saying, didn't you see it coming? Aren't you supposed to have financial expertise? How could you let things go and let the bottom fall out? That is what has prompted everything, is the 5-year plan that has catastrophe written all over. My biggest detriment is I see the world in black and white, and everybody doesn't want a dose of the truth. And do you really think that I sat around when I saw the 5-year, the sign that was put up there on where Clark Collins's law firm used to be, I think was put up for my benefit, and it says, politicians, enough is enough. What I'm trying to do is not be a politician. There were those that said to me, Jim, don't bring up the income tax before the election. And I said, why not? The truth is the truth. I would hope that you would appreciate the fact that you've got somebody that's going to give you bad news and good news when it comes up in a timely fashion. That's all I'm trying to do. You folks have the decision to make, not anybody sitting up here. It's up to you if you want the city to move forward and the money that it takes, and I fully understand if you want it to stay pat, that's up to you also. I bring you honesty and truthfulness. As an accountant, one of the nicest things is you get a report card every year in the form of an audit. I've been audited 40 times, and I've had clean audits for 40 times. I told you as a finance director years ago, put a 0.5% income tax on for 3 years just to pay the debt, get us out of fiscal emergency, we'll take it off. People said, he'll never take it off. Guess what? It was taken off just like it said. And guess what? When the audit came out, the money was spent exactly like we said it would be.
Going off what Mr. Torres said with didn't you see it coming, I believe that there's many council members that have been involved as either a mayor or council for many years. So why did we not see this coming? You know, with the the increase to the income tax, one of the things I want to bring up is it is only taxing working citizens. What do you think the working citizens of Ironton are going to do? As Mr. Cramblett alluded to, he said, if I work in Ashland, why not just move to Ashland? Okay, so what you're going to see is a decrease in working citizens, and you're going to also see a decrease in the revenue generated from that tax. So basically, it's a lose-lose situation. You're not gaining anything. That is not going to gain anything, and that was my big thing going up to city council meetings and speaking my mind, was you guys have got to come up with more creative ways to make revenue. You cannot tax or fee your way out of this, and you can't eliminate services. That is everything that Ironton needs. You don't need that. I've put together, I've shown you ways that Ironton is being inefficient. That's basically $300,000 saving right now. Just go ahead and do it, and we're saving $300,000. There's dozens of underground water leaks. So basically, we're treating water that is just seeping back into the ground. It is not being used by anybody. So basically, why are we spending money on chemicals to treat water that is, and people in the city know about these leaks. It's not like it's a big secret. We've actually had people come in and spot them. Why are we not fixing those things? So basically, I'm going to go off of what I said is there is no need for an increase in income tax. We need to be more efficient with our money. We need to look at ourselves and do a better job.
You know, what I want the voters of Coal Grove to understand the most is that, you know, the Village of Coal Grove mayor is a part-time position. It's not like the Ironton mayor where it's a full-time position. But what I want the voters to understand is this is a full-time thought process and a full-time position for me. As a council member, my wife can attest that I'm constantly brainstorming and thinking of ways to come up and improve the village. I have a real passion to serve the people of Coal Grove. I really want to progress the village in such a fashion that people want to move to Coal Grove. The Village of Coal Grove owns about 33 acres, and we're 2.2 square miles, and our school takes up a lot of that area. So it's really one of the last places left to develop. So within my 4-year term, I would like to come up with a plan to develop this area into a cul-de-sac community, create some constraints for these deeds, and develop a more of our community. I want more people to come be a part of our community. I think when we can bring people into our little village, it's just going to help our village prosper and get more people involved to the community things that we need to do. So I want the people to understand that there won't be a single day that I won't be thinking about how to improve our situations in the community. So with that being said, you know, we talk about being efficient. Coal Grove has a $3 million budget. We're not in a financial crisis. We all want more money to do more things, but I've been successful in appropriating funds as a member of the council, and we've managed our money well, but we do need to become more efficient. I hear you guys talk about water leaks in your situation. I contracted a company called Leak Seekers. We were processing 16 million gallons of water a month, but we were only selling 4 million gallons of water a month. We now have that number down to we are processing 6 million gallons of water and still selling 4 million gallons of water. So we do have a water loss, but you know, we contracted a company out of Columbus, and they found one leak that was 80,000 gallons a day. So with that same mentality of becoming more efficient, we have the budget we need. We just have to create efficiencies within that budget to do the things that we want to do and really take us to where we need to be.
Mr. O'Leary made a good point at the beginning of this evening. We have a panel full of people here who are passionate about their towns, and that's a wonderful thing. So basically this evening, you've heard all kinds of points, all kinds of descriptions, all kinds of things, input for you. You're going to decide who's going to represent you the best on any of these positions. And so what I want to tell you this evening is that I think I'm that person. I want to speak for the people of Ironton on our city council. If you ask me a question, I will answer you to the fullest of my knowledge. On other topics, we might disagree, but I'll still respect you. I'll explain my point. And I'm going to tell you that I'm humble enough and I'm smart enough that if you bring up a point that's better than mine or have an idea that's better than mine, I can concede and say, that's better. Let's do that. I'm open-minded. I'm a free thinker, and I think a critical thinker about things. You'll find me a fair-minded person, a reasonable man, and I think through problems. And I guarantee you, I will represent you to the best of my ability on council. In closing, I want to use a quote from Abraham Lincoln, if I may. Abraham Lincoln was speaking to some folks, and he said, oh, I'm not concerned if God's on my side. I'm more concerned if I'm on God's side, because he always wins.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think we've heard a lot of great ideas, and I think it's amazing to see the democratic process at work. That being said, Ironton can't afford to lose out on this major opportunity for change. I've been going door to door and talking to the people of Ironton, and one thing they say the most is that they want change. They're tired of the same old excuses and blame shifting. They don't want excuses. They want transparency, and they want people that are interested in saving this city. And it's important that we take our job seriously because Ironton is at a critical point. I urge you to vote for me because I will put Ironton first. I want to hear from the people of Ironton, and I want to be a representative of them. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for coming out. It's not always easy to answer these questions that are sometimes difficult in 2 minutes and not knowing what they are beforehand. So I appreciate you all coming, and I appreciate everyone here for coming to listen to what they had to say. Good night.